G'day, mates. Welcome back to another episode of the Sorare Downunder podcast. My name is Simon Rathbone, joined by my brother from the same mother, Alistair Rathbone. Alistair, welcome back to another ep. Of course, it's never a quiet week on the Sorare platform. Plenty's been happening. I mean, Ethereum's been, charging its way back up to what it was about this time a year ago. Of course, we're seeing the new platforms come in onto the Sorare, which is having a few managers lose their minds. How have you been, and what have you made of it all in the past week?
Yeah, thanks, mate. Look, I've been kind of quietly enjoying it all. I mean, I think there's a bit of a sense of panic in the air. That panic stations.
Oh my God! Okay, it's happening. Everybody stay calm.
What's the procedure, everyone? What's the procedure?
Stay calm.
Wait.
Everybody calm down.
It's been this is the first week that they've started to roll out all the new game modes, and everyone's still confused. There's semi-pro, amateur. There's all the cap modes are still yet to come. Like, it's all going a bit crazy. Like you said, ETH is on a charge, so that means everyone's prices are going down in terms of ETH on the platform. So everyone's like freaking out, thinking that everything's going to zero. So. And then on top of all that, some guy loaned a card to his mate and got banned, and now everyone's panicking that, you can't loan, you can loan, what's going on? So, yeah, it's been, it's always eventful. I think there's a bit of people are a little bit freaked out at the moment, but I'm enjoying it all.
I mean, it's always exciting at the start of the new America season. Obviously, that's what we both play predominantly throughout the season. So there's always that hype. And I think it's interesting that Ethereum's going back up. It was a bit of a weird feeling seeing my, Sebastian Jarisi card go down to 0.84 ETH. And I'm like, what's going on? He should be going up. Like, we're heading in towards the start of the season. And then you do the math and hang on a second, this is actually going up in fiat value, which is ideally what you want to happen, especially considering where we were probably a year ago, where Ethereum was an all-time high and cards were, might have been cheap in Ethereum, but actually in their fiat value was really, really high.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because I think during the boom, we've had a couple of booms. There's obviously the Gary V boom where everything was just ridiculous. And then I think you could probably say that maybe around April, May, June last year, when NFTs were the hot thing and people were paying $8 million for a picture of a lemon or whatever.
2 words: entrepreneurship.
Everyone's cards were just crazily priced in terms of ETH, in terms of fiat. I was buying Lucas Ayans for $6,000. We started to lose the concept of how much things actually were. I remember going, holy shit, I just spent $6,500 on a picture of an MLS player. And now we're kind of looking at the inverse where ETH is really low, and we haven't seen everyone's ETH prices of cards kind of skyrocket. They've kind of stayed the same. So, yeah, it's pretty interesting. I think everyone across the platform, their overall gallery value is down. But I think if ETH can get back to that $3,000, $4,000 a coin kind of level, it'll be interesting to see if ETH prices go with it or if they just continue to go down. And I think that's probably an indicator that the more mainstream Sorare is becoming, the more it's being tied to fiat. So, yeah, it's very interesting.
Yeah, because it's a weird one at the moment because it's hard to get a gauge on how much a player is actually worth because, like you said, a year ago, we were happy. We just thought that's the way things were always going to be. That's what the new cards are going to cost, and we were happy to pay it. And then, of course, ETH crashed, and then we were all lost with these huge fiat losses. And then now, as we come in towards the start of the season, of course, prices and values of cards generally are going up. But are we still seeing that preseason MLS boom? Because the cards aren't going up in Ethereum value much, but they are in fiat.
Yeah, that's the question on everyone's lips. I think everyone's kind of waiting for the boom to come, We've still got a whole month until the MLS starts. So I think maybe this year, as opposed to last year, people are a little bit more clued on, and that's going to happen as the platform grows. So, maybe this time people aren't getting too carried away too quickly. And I think that just combined with all the changes and, the negativity around the K-League and the deadline and, this loans thing, I think most industries go through like booms and busts over the course of months or years. I think Sorare goes through booms and busts in the course of like a week, 8 or 9 days. I'm sure in 3 days' time they'll announce the Prem and some other great thing, and all of a sudden everyone loves Sorare again. So it's a roller coaster, but I'm holding tight.
I've just lost both jerseys in the space of about 20 seconds. So now I lost the Tottenham jersey. I was like, that's okay. We can go on with our Tottenham. And then the Portland Timbers jersey quickly followed suit behind me. The glue tack.
The Timbers jersey. That Spurs jersey. I mean, if any jersey deserves to be on the ground right now, it's the Spurs.
Yeah.
And I'm a Spurs fan.
That's why we now support Benfica and Porto.
That's right.
Much better.
Benfica's getting a run today.
Yeah, no, I think it's interesting because it makes Sorare a really good platform to do a podcast on, because it gives you something to talk about every week. Because, like you said last week, the goalposts are constantly moving. There's always something to talk about. But, I mean, I remember we used to talk, last year, we're like, it's a simple strategy. Buy guys at the end of the MLS season, and then when the boom comes, you sell them.
Yeah. Like that's ever going to happen. What a logic.
But I think what we're finding is that Sorare, it's not as clear-cut as that. One strategy isn't necessarily going to be working in a year's time. So much can change. And so I know yourself, we both went and bought a bunch of MLS guys at the end of last year, and the limiteds were like, all right, we'll buy them out the bottom, and then come February, they'll be huge. And we've found that that's not necessarily the case.
No, it's not necessarily the case. I mean, you're also talking to a man who bought a bunch of World Cup cards months and months before the World Cup, thinking, here we go, come the World Cup, these will be the only cards on the platform worth anything. I'm going to be sitting on a gold mine. And then, of course, they introduce a whole new free-to-play thing. So, yeah, I think we've just kind of learned our lesson now that planning ahead in Sorare is stupid. So I think we've just got to go back to keeping it simple, buy good players, win good cards, rinse and repeat.
And what have
Speaking
you made
of the devil,
of
I think it's time we should congratulate ourselves. What do you reckon?
I think it's time. It's always time.
And now they always say congratulations. Work so hard for
Tell us, I was going to say, what rewards have you won this week? What you brought home for the gallery?
I am on a bit of a roll. For the second week in a row, I have finished in the Tier 1 pool for Challenger. So let's have a look. Who did I win? Let's go. Okay, what was his name? What was his bloody name? I can't even remember the guy's name.
You are so stupid. Am I?
He plays for Ghent. I should know his name. Oh, this is fantastic content right here. I won Kuipers. Here he is.
He's a Michelin boy, isn't he?
He is a former Michelin boy, so, someone near and dear to our heart. Only worth about 0.4 at the moment, which isn't amazing, but also, nothing to sneeze at. He, performs pretty well, so I'm pretty happy with that. Let's have a look at the... I've just completely forgotten how to use Sorare.
You're flustered.
Here
mate.
we go.
You're flustered. There we go.
I'm flustered. All right. Alrighty, so my winning lineup was... So this one was my great big hope for the week. Of course, it was scuppered when Munoz didn't play. Here we go. Okay, so pretty much my boy Nicola came through. Marky Bartra, Marky B, he pretty much either gets 100 or he gets 35. And this happened to be one of the weeks that he got 100, which is amazing for your super rare. And then my boy Tommy Hay, who... I'll be honest, when I bought him, I think I bought him for like 1.1 ETH because...
Idiot.
Because he was like it. He was the midfielder to have ahead of the season, and then he just kind of sucked for a while. He's finally starting to get back to that form, that 1.1 ETH form. So it's good to see him bang in another assist. He's a bit of a cheat code, in my opinion. Great AA and takes sets and, is always kind of there or thereabouts. And old mate Paulinho got a penalty one in like the 94th minute. So he went from, I think, 25 up to 60. So not the, pretty good. If Adan keeps a clean sheet, I probably would have won the division. But look, we're happy with our boy Kuipers. I think it's pronounced Kuipers.
And Alistair, the big question though is Hugo Kuipers. Is he a hold, a sold, or a fold?
Hold a sold or a fold? Hold gold fold? He is a hold. I'm going to hold on to him.
Goal!
Oh, nice. Welcome to the game, Hugo.
Okay, what is next? Alrighty, Simon, should we make some money?
Let's do it.
I let the stocks decide my mood.
Fuck! Damn it! Wait, is green good? Green's good. Okay, never mind.
Alrighty, so this week on the buy low, sell high, we explained last week, but for those who didn't catch that, basically we look at some players who are undervalued, players that you should go out and buy because we think they're going to either increase in value or they're going to provide you with value that is better than their actual cost. And then we also, on the flip side of that, we look at players that we think are overpriced and that potentially you should consider selling on and making a different move. So we'll start with the buy. I'll start with the sell highs, actually. So this week, number one sell high for me is Jesper Karlsson. You'll be very familiar with Jesper, Simon, given that he basically rendered your Tijani Reinders useless. So you're a big fan of Jesper, I know.
I'm pretty keen to see him get shipped off to some league where he starts on the bench. He's on the bench every week because, he's not in my good books at the moment. I bought back my reindeers thinking I'm a genius. I've got him back for the price that I bought him for, and he's been nothing but average since.
So, you'll be happy to know that Tijani Reinders has just signed a brand new contract extension with AZ. And Jesper Karlsson, I don't know if he's going to move this window or he's going to move the next window, but I think it's pretty obvious that he is going to move. He is a bit of a weapon. I'll definitely admit that, especially for under 23. But look, he's losing under 23 in a couple of months, and he could move as soon as, the 5 days from now, the end of the month. And I think for what you're getting from him, he hasn't really been hitting these peak scores that he used to, these hundreds, these 90s. Look at him back before his injury. He was an absolute god. I think now that he's got Odegaard and Pavlidis up front with him, they're just sharing it around. You'll know better than anyone that, those three are all decisive machines. It's not so much just relying on one guy. So I think if you can get an ETH for Jesper Karlsson, I would be snapping that up. And I think there's better kind of, U23 forward options or just general, challenger forward options out there.
And the next one that you've got on the list, Yohei Takioka. Did I get that right?
Yohei Takawaka. Takawaka. We're nailing it. Takawakawa. Taka. Big Taka dog. Dog in the Taka box. Yohei, as we'll call him. He was pretty much the best goalkeeper in Japan last year, plays for Yokohama F. Marinos. Scores really well, solid goalkeeper of the year, in the shortlist for MVP, I think. Although, unfortunately, he has been very, very strongly linked with the Vancouver Whitecaps. So, whilst you might think that a move to the MLS might help a J-League goalkeeper, as we know, the MLS goalkeepers do not keep clean sheets. So I can't see how Yohei is going to be keeping any more clean sheets, especially because he's going to Vancouver, who are a big old bag of trash. So at the moment, he's going for 0.8. I'm sure it's dropped a little bit. Yeah, it's dropped a little bit since the news. But I reckon by the time the season comes around, I can't see him being any more than, your average MLS goalkeeper sitting around 0.5 at the maximum, unless Vancouver massively improve.
It's pretty harsh on Thomas Hasal, the under-23 keeper at Vancouver. So he's just, like a backup now if that deal goes through?
I guess so, yeah. I think a lot of people were kind of saying that Hassan probably wasn't ready to be the number one anyway because he is so young. I don't think he did too badly last year, but
He just needed time for his fingers to develop. They clearly weren't strong enough.
Yeah, weak fingers. Didn't need enough yogurt. I think Vancouver have got some pretty nice pieces in their team this year, so maybe they just thought, look, why potentially waste these players like Gould and Gressel and some of these kind of Pedro Vite, some of these stars that we've got in the team. It's no good to us if we're conceding 3 goals a week. So I guess they just wanted someone who's got a bit of pedigree and a bit of experience. So, but I still think they're going to be conceding 2 or 3 games.
There's only so much poor Takioko can do at the back.
Okay, let's move on so we don't have to keep butchering that poor man's name. Let's move on to our buy lows. So these are players that are undervalued, in my honest opinion. And the first one that we have here on the list is a personal favourite of mine, Jack Price. So Jack Price, that's it. Alrighty, sharing that screen. So Jack Price is currently going for 0.17. And if you look at that kind of score chart, you can see why. Not his best year. I think you see here that he was pretty much injured all of last season, and even when he did play, just was never right. Didn't get those decisives that he was getting the year before. But what makes me think he's undervalued is his 2021 season, which you can see here on the screen. Lots of greens, very good AA. If we scroll back quite a way. And he was getting lots of these assists. And the reason he was getting lots of assists is because he takes set pieces for Colorado. So he takes free kicks, he takes corners. He's the captain of the team. He sits there and kind of CDM and just kind of distributes. And I think last year Colorado just sucked. He had bad hammies. He had a bad back. He was just wasn't his year. This year, I think they've got Cole Bassett back, which is pretty exciting for them. They've got Rubio, who was one of the best strikers in the league last year. I don't know if they've necessarily improved their team that much, but I still think Jack Price is one that, if he can just get a few more assists from those corners, then, he's a really good value piece. So for 0.17, I think it's worth taking a gamble.
To be fair, mate, I think on his Christmas wish list was just getting back on the park. I think you look at that, the poor man's he played 1 game and then he was out for like another 8 weeks, and you'd be like, oh, it's great, my Jack Price is finally back on the field. I can finally start to use him, and then bam, man's down. That's
right, exactly. He's dead. Alrighty. Okay, next one on the list is Julian Dessart. So Julian is another player similarly priced to Jack Price, and very similar in terms of his situation. So he missed pretty much all of last year with I think it was a broken leg or something pretty serious. You'll see a lot of DMPs in there. Came back, kind of played a lot of games on the bench, didn't do much, got injured again, kind of worked his way back into the team. It seems like he is now like a locked-in starter for them alongside our boy Svenny Coombs. And the last couple of games, he's just had like monster AA. No decisives as yet, but a 76 and a 71. Now, obviously, you can't get too excited just because you see a couple of green scores. But again, similar to Jack Price, back when he was in his prime, he was a bit of a monster. So he was scoring lots of greens without decisives, greens with decisives. He was kind of the man. So just another one of those players where for 0.165, if he can stay in the team, stay healthy, then he could be a really strong part of anyone's lineup, just because, he's going to get you that AA score. And, if he gets the odd assist or the odd goal, which he's definitely capable of doing, then you're onto a winner. So you could potentially get those 90s, 80s, 100s, So, Julian Dessart, definitely one to be looking at picking up.
And potentially even with some of those guys, you don't necessarily have to play them in the first couple of game weeks. You can always have them in your squad, pick them up at a discount, and then sort of see how they're going. So they're not ruining your game week if they do continue on the poor form from last year. But I think there was one more that I want to touch on if you want to get up on Sorare Data was Pozuelo at Miami. Obviously took the move there from Toronto mid-season. still a little bit unclear. I'm pretty sure whether he's going to be staying in Miami. I think they're trying to work out something around a DP spot. But, I mean, Pozuelo is there. He's currently at 0.26. I mean, that's a pretty good bargain for a guy that can pump out some pretty good scores. And I think Miami should be on the improve this season. I mean, they've got Joseph up front there with Campana.
Yeah, absolutely. He was the MVP only 2 years ago. MVP season, then had an injury-plagued season for a terrible Toronto, up and down kind of year for Toronto, and then he got traded to Miami. And yeah, he was in and amongst it every week alongside our boy Gonzalo up there. So yeah, look, I mean, I think for Miami, it's either Messi or Pozuelo, right? So fingers crossed maybe not fingers crossed, but if they miss out on Messi, then surely they offer a contract to Pozuelo. So this one's definitely a bit risky because if he ends up going back to Europe, then he's probably terrible. But he's also the kind of player where he could go to Argentina and still do really well, like a Maxi Morales, that kind of character as well. So, yeah, definitely a good pick.
Yeah, okay. And I think, also with Miami as well, there's a little bit of uncertainty about how they're going to come together. They've got a few new pieces, especially up front, and there could be nothing worse than if he's putting on the ball on a platter, but Martinez and that aren't able to do anything about it, then it's obviously not going to result in anything.
That's right. All right, Simon, it's that time of the week. Has the A-League been onboarded yet?
Another week of no more A-League. Nicholas, he's not even returning my calls at this point. But
rude.
He's been too busy living it up in the NBA. But look, for this week's segment of the A-Leagues, we're going to dive in to have a look at the goalkeepers. We all love goalkeepers. I have a great personal history with the blokes. They never let you down. They always keep clean sheets when you need them to. So we'll have a look at the A-League's stats from the year. So the A-League is not the highest quality league, as you can guess, which sometimes means that there's not that many goals scored because there's guys that they can put the ball right in front of them, but they cannot finish to save their lives. I know we spoke last week about Melbourne City's dominance in the league, so it comes no surprise that their goalkeeper, Tom Glover, has the most clean sheets in the league. So he leads the way with 6 clean sheets from their 12 games. So every second game he'll have a clean sheet, theoretically. Brisbane Roar has got the next most with the clean sheets of 5. And then there is all the way down at the bottom, the great Sydney FC, who are actually doing all right this season, but who only kept 1 clean sheet for the entire year. So when the A-League does come on board, you certainly don't want Sydney FC's keeper because it'll be nothing but heartache for Andrew Redmayne, the dancing wiggle himself.
Oh, really? He's the Sydney FC goalkeeper. Okay. I think you probably need to get one of his cards just purely for, collectability, right?
I mean, he's conceded... How many goals has he conceded this year? 22 goals. But, yeah, sure, I'll get his card.
Too busy boogieing around in the...
Just stand still, Andrew. That's what they're trying to teach you at training. Just stop dancing and save some bloody goals.
For anyone who has no idea what we're talking about, look up either the Grey Wiggle on YouTube or look up Socceroos World Cup qualification penalty shootout. He's got a pretty kind of questionable tactic when facing pens, but hey, got us to the World Cup.
I mean, it's actually the perfect segue to our next segment. It is the true underdog story of Andrew Redmayne. I mean, Australians, we love an underdog. I mean, Stephen Bradbury, the 05 Socceroos World Cup qualifying shootout, 19-year-old Nick Kyrgios beating Rafael Nadal. So here at the Sorare Downunder podcast, we have decided to get on board with an underdog of our own, except we do not know who they are, and we want you to help us choose them. For this segment, we're going to call it the Underdogs, where we pick a team from some random league around the world, K-League, potentially J-League, or a second division European team. We basically become their biggest fans. We'll buy 5 of their cards and then put that potentially in a capped mode. And every bit of ETH or reward we win from them, we can put towards a trip to hopefully go see them in the flesh one day. Also, is there a few teams potentially that we could look at jumping on board and becoming the biggest fans of?
Yeah, I mean, look, our goal is to obviously raise some ETH through this team so that we can go and, buy some jerseys or hopefully go and see them in the flesh. But we may be waiting for quite some time, I think. But look, we really want to get behind this team. We want to live, eat, sleep, breathe this team. And yeah, I think we're going to run a bit of a competition on Twitter this week. So keep an eye out for that. Basically, we want you guys to help us pick a team. We're thinking like K-League, J-League, Second Division Europe, Norway, as long as they've got a Sorare, as long as they have Sorare coverage and you can actually buy their players. We don't want the more mainstream leagues, maybe no MLS, certainly no none of the big five, anything like that, because that's, they've got enough fans. We want to try and, if we end up going to see this team play, A, we don't want to be paying much for the ticket, and B, we want to be in a paddock somewhere. We want to be in someone's backyard watching this team play. So, yeah, I think it's going to be exciting. I'm looking forward to whacking them in each week, learning a little bit more about the club, learning about the town that they come from, and hopefully just making millions of dollars off the back of them,
And I mean, how good will the episode be when they hold on for a big 4-0 win against the ladder leaders, and we will just be absolutely up and about telling all our friends and family about some random team in Chile that's just pulled off the biggest upset of the world. But geez, we will feel good.
Oh my God, I can't wait! So I think what we'll do is we'll put it out there for suggestions, and then we'll create a poll. And then we want people to kind of put forward suggestions for us, and then we want people to vote as to which team we should go for. We'll make a bit of a short list out of the suggestions, and we'll go from there. So yeah, looking forward to it.
Yeah, and we can just chuck them potentially in the cap mode and see if that can chip away at the ETH, and see, like you said, see if they can make us millions. So we may as well jump in now to this week's strategy corner. Oh, sorry.
Perfect segue, Simon. You're a professional. I totally screwed that up for you. So this week on Strategy Corner, we're going to talk about the cap mode because you don't really know much about it. So what questions do you have? Let me try and I'll do my best to help you out.
Yeah, so I had a little look on Sorare data during work hours, which I wasn't supposed to be doing, but, as you do, just a little... Sorry, this is my main job. And I was having a look at what's the best strategy for the cap mode, because obviously, is it 240 points?
240, that's for the threshold, yeah. They've introduced 220, 270, and 240. 240 is the only one in rare and limited all scarcities that you can win the threshold.
Right, so the 220 is basically like an underdog.
I think so. Again, the rules are a little bit hazy around each of them, but I'm pretty sure from what I can gather, 220 and 240, there is no captain bonus and there is no XP. So it's kind of like a level playing field. I do believe you need to have 5 players for each. So I think, the benefit of underdog not having to have a keeper, I think that's gone. And then in 270, it's a little bit more hardcore in that you can have a captain and you can have XP. So, and then I'm pretty sure, I hope they will still have just general All-Star and All-Star Pro as well. So it's going to be, it's going to be a lot trying to pick which teams to enter where moving forward.
So for a gallery of my size, will targeting cap mode be the best strategy, given that I've probably got the best chance because people can't just necessarily plug in a Neymar next to a Mbappe? Because that was the issue in All-Star, obviously, is I would put my team in so I can get my threshold, but I had basically no chance of winning because I was always up against the big guns.
Yeah, well, I think we've both got galleries that suit the cap mode if we want to try and just shoot for that threshold each week. The benefit of the cap mode now is that anyone and everyone actually has a chance to win it. You can still go in All-Star, and I think it'll actually be good for All-Star. And what you might want to do is enter into All-Star, because a lot of people will migrate to capped mode in order to get the threshold. So all of a sudden, All-Star could be wide open, so that could be really good. We were talking about whether you wanted to make the move up to Rare Pro. You could potentially just stick with All-Star and you'll have half the people to come up against. So it'll be, like I said, it'll be interesting. It'll basically come down to what happens, where are the rewards. But I think looking at your roster, you've got plenty of players that kind of fit the mold for cap mode quite well. Obviously, you've got some premium players there, but people like Watanabe, Claudio Bravo, I think is perfect because he's so up and down. He's got a pretty high L15 at the moment, but he's the kind of guy where he's going to get you 25 or he's going to get you 90. So perfect kind of player to have in there. Milton Casco is another one where, you don't know what you're going to get. Zampedri, someone who scores goals regularly but has no AA, so he either scores 30 or 60. Like, those are the kind of players you want. So I think you're pretty well set for rare. And the benefit of cap mode, I think, for a gallery size like yours is that these like tier 3 rewards that you've won, like Edison Flores and Thomas Jacob, these players now have a tremendous amount of use for you because you can slot them into cap mode and try and continue to win ETH with them. And then you kind of more high quality backups, your like Reynoso, Pereira, these kind of Alan Franco, these kind of players who aren't going to be in your main team. Those are the kind of players you can put in All-Star, and hopefully you'll have a bit more of a chance, this time around.
I just want to correct you on something there, mate. That Thomas Jacob, that was a very high-end tier 2. That's just how bad the reward is, that it's 0.08. Sorry, I just think you got a little bit confused. A high-end tier 2.
I think we need to have a new segment where we just basically say which South American obscure team member did Simon win this week, as his tier 1.
Or you play the game tier 1 or tier 3. You'll be surprised how many you get right.
You've really kind of, people always say that it's kind of an ongoing joke that no one's ever happy with their rewards. I think you like take that to the most extreme level where it's like,
who the fuck is that guy?
I remember, I just want someone I know. I remember looking through the prize pool once when I was on for a really high tier 2. I was almost pushing tier 1. And I was like, sweet, there are some big boys in here. It'd be awesome. And then I just saw 19, Mexican league, and I was just like, oh man. And of course, apparently he's meant to start, but his price is not reflecting that at the moment.
Okay, so let's have a look at your so look at your gallery, or look at limited. So okay, so in goals, I think Zelenica should be back shortly. I mean, the guy that's in a classic case of, when your goalkeeper gets injured, the backup has come in and has just had a couple of blinders. So Zelenica, I think, he's the guy who broke his spine or something ridiculous, or had a spasm and couldn't walk. He, by all accounts, he is the number 1, but they just are keeping the other guy in while he's in form. But if he comes back, he's kind of perfect for capped mode because he only takes up 40 points or less than 40 points. So let's whack him in there. Now, in the back, you probably want someone I hear your boy Van Cleanput's back. Is that right?
Van Cleanput is back, baby. Came on for a juicy 15 minutes.
Okay, nice. Well, let's hope he keeps up a few sub-appearances just to ease him back in. And then, by the time cap mode is in, I mean, if you whack him in there, that's only 14 of cap space, so you're pretty much set then. Obviously, you don't really want to break up the your main AZ stack, but you can chuck in someone like a Classy who hasn't got the highest L15, but as we know, he can easily bang out a 60 or a 65 just in AA. If he gets a decisive, which he is capable of, then you're golden. And then up front, who have you got up front? Oh, you've only got Odegaard and Pavlidis right now. Although when MLS comes back, you'll have plenty more. But you picked one of them, and then I reckon your guy. Oh, Kadri's L15 is a bit high. You could probably fit him in though. And maybe a Tate could be a good option in there. So look, that's what, 62, 58, that's 120, 168. Oh no, that's their predicted score, 52, 55, 107, 154, 168, 208. So you're well under the cap threshold there. So I think if you've got these kind of players, like a clean put in there, obviously, like an injured player coming back, that's gold. And if you've got a couple of like under 40 players that, will start, then you're pretty much on the roll. But otherwise, I think you want to be looking for like, if it was me, I'd be looking for a keeper who is okay. I wouldn't be looking for like, top class keeper. Keeper doesn't really matter. Defenders, I would be going for your Claudio Bravos, your Milton Cascos, your fullbacks that are gonna either go big or go home. Because if you don't get the threshold, it's not a big deal. But if they do go big, then you can potentially look at finishing quite high. I think you want to go really consistent. Your classic threshold players in midfield. If you can get two midfielders that average like 55. And consistently hit 55 with the odd 60 or 65 thrown in. Like your Sven Coombs is a good example. Or
Mauricio Pereira.
Mauricio Pereira is another fantastic example. Those guys are just going to be gold for capped mode because you want your consistency from the midfielders. And then up front, like I said, you don't want to be spending too much money on a capped mode forward. I wouldn't be going out and buying a Jens Odegaard necessarily for capped mode. But like I said, that Zem Pedri that you have is the perfect example of a player who, where is he? Let's look at his scores. Yeah, so it's either a goal or it's not a goal, pretty much. So his L15 is always going to be somewhere in the middle here. You don't want someone who's always scoring all the time. But if he can score a goal, then you're golden. Someone who takes pens but doesn't necessarily score every single game is probably what you're looking for.
A lot of people you're saying were jumping up and down about this new introduction of all the modes, but I know it's a little bit confusing, but from what you're explaining, the cap mode seems great. Like it seems perfect for the smaller manager to come in. It's sort of like a combination of the specialist and the underdog. It seems great. Like it actually gives value to these guys that when you win a tier 3 and you're just like, I'm never going to use these guys, I'm never going to win anything with them. I think it's a great initiative, to be honest.
I agree. I think it's as long as they keep the other kind of, high roller table competitions for people with bigger galleries, I think it's awesome. I think it gives everyone a balanced playing field. Specialist was annoying because you'd always have like 4 players with an L15 of 41. So that was just, and then you have to go out and buy some dickhead that you don't want. People will still be buying dickheads for this, don't get me wrong. But like I said, you and I are quite set up in a place where we can be it's realistic for us to say that we could win a tier 2 or a tier 3 any given week. And now we have somewhere to put them and we can still generate ETH with them. And we can hopefully try, if they all hit, we've got a good chance of winning. So yeah, I think it's going to be awesome. I think it's a little bit confusing because they've added like 15 different game modes at once, but it'll be very interesting to see, like from a new user's perspective, what it's like to come onto the platform and start. Maybe we need to like get one of your mates or someone to sign up, and we'll just follow their journey and see how they go. See how they go playing the free to plays, and then going to the kickoff, and then the all star or the semi pro, whatever it is. Like it's going to be quite interesting to see how that rolls out.
I think it's time to turn our attention to our Podium Dangerous segment for the week. Alistair, what's your best looking lineup for this coming weekend?
It's a race. I'm winning.
Just quickly before we go into our obviously our winning lineups. By the way, the last 2 weeks my preferred lineup has done nothing, and the team of my throwaways has had 2 top 20 finishes. So I'm sure I'm putting the curse on these guys by even mentioning them. But quickly, we didn't talk about your awards for the week, mate. What did you win?
Well, I'll tell you. Absolutely fucking nothing.
I won nothing. It all started so promising. I got 180 from Kadri off the bench, and I was like, here we go. I'm an underdog. And I was like, if Matty Ryan starts, he started. And then from the graveyard of my Sorare history, like an ex that has come back to ruin my life, the once love of my life, Burak Yilmaz, comes in and slots home a penalty to take away Matty Ryan's clean sheet.
Oh, Yilmaz.
That was an absolute nightmare because obviously you lose the 25 points or whatever you might get from a keeper getting a clean sheet. There goes the 10-point bonus for Kirkes. It is just not what you want when you got a stack. And the bald Turkish man has done it again and found the back of the net when I didn't need it most.
He's just looking down the camera, wasn't he? Smug, just looking directly at you, going, that was for you.
Remember all these good times? You let me go and this is payback. So I should never have sold my Burak Yilmaz.
Nah. Oh, good times. Good times with Burak. Maybe that should be a segment. Good times with Burak. Oh, man, that sucks. There's nothing worse than when the only goal conceded is a penalty. It's kind of like your keeper didn't really deserve that, you know? It's not his fault. Anyway. All right, back to Podium Dangerous.
I'm pretty confident with Matty Ryan
for this week that I'm pretty excited about.
All right, back to Podium Dangerous. We'll go on to Podium Dangerous. Tell us your most dangerous team.
My most dangerous team this week is, let's share this bad boy. Okay, so the Argentinian League is back this week, so I'm very excited to roll out my Gabriel Arias from a Racing Club. He's playing a team that is only newly promoted, I believe, to the Argentinian division. So, you know, who knows? They could be the Union Saint-Gilloise of Argentina and they could crush everyone this year, but I'm hoping that they just kind of stumble out of the blocks and fire a blank. Munoz, you know, providing there's no more snowstorms, he should destroy Sarang. Lavaya always scores. And then, look, I mean, Marky B, like I said, he either scores 100 or a 30, so I'm hoping he can do another 100 for us. And then good old Alexandru Maxim, who has a pretty, I was going to say had a favourable matchup, but apparently not, so might need to adjust that. But as always, I'm full of hope. The lineup predictor says that I'm going to win, so, you know, I'm getting my hopes up. I'm ready to be heard again.
Nothing can possibly go wrong. Nothing.
I loved that earlier you said we were talking about Kadri scoring his 80. It's like there's nothing more so rare than the first player in your lineup scoring an 80, and then you're like, I'm going to win. I'm going to finish first. This guy's already scored well. All they have to have happen is the next four guys score well, and I win the whole game.
Mate, when you don't win, it's that little bit of hope. It's what gets you up in the morning. Just this week's the week. This week's the week. And you know what, mate? This week is the week. I'm rolling out the AZ stack again. Matty Ryan's still in goals. I've lost a bit. He's done a foot, so in comes Big Georgie.
He's done a foot.
Foot's absolutely messed up. So,
he's thrown a shoe.
He's thrown a shoe. He's kicked the ball too hard. Rolling out the same AZ stack. I've just got a good feeling, man. I've got a good feeling that Reindeers is going to get that sweet decisive and get back to his 90 scoring best.
Mm-hmm.
Heard it here first.
Yep. Who are they? Which?
Don't do this to me.
Which team?
Don't do this.
Which team are they? Which team are they playing?
I think it might be the 9th place team. So
9th place team. Oh, those guys are great.
I actually know the name. It's the Go Ahead Eagles. So I came prepared this week. I've taken down my notes.
The Go Ahead Eagles.
It's the Go Ahead Eagles. Yeah, tough one to remember.
That's not how you pronounce it, you idiot. It's the Go Ahead Yargeles. Come on. That's very culturally inappropriate of you. The Go Ahead Yargeles. It's a simple Dutch name. Come on. Cool, mate. Well, I look forward to that stack finally paying off for you. You know, that's the beauty of stacks is it's a whole lot of nothing until the 1 week where they just all click. So I have my fingers and toes crossed for you.
I definitely am pretty keen for America to come back because you don't want your whole week relying on a stack because, like you said, it's either they absolutely smash or it's nothing if they concede a goal. I need some regular football action back so the stack's just an extra bonus because it's a little bit devastating.
Absolutely. Well, I can't wait for our our underdog team to be rolling out in that limited cap mode. I assume it'll be cap mode each week because I can't imagine that whichever team we choose will have L15s of 60 across the board. So I dare say we won't have to do much mental arithmetic to get those guys squeezed into the cap mode. But I'm looking forward to rolling those boys out. So hopefully the Sorare community can pick us some good ones.
Absolutely. Well, best of luck on the weekend, and I'm sure by the time we record next week, there'll be 3 other huge announcements, and the whole platform will have changed drastically, and we'll be back to discuss it more.
That's it. All right.
All right. Catch you later, mate.
See you, mate. Bye.